Hi, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Hi, my good friends. Good day, everyone, and welcome to Speak Your Mind. Your mental health depends on it. I am Cecilia Salazar, and on today's show, we are looking at our violent society. And why is it always the man to blame? How can we find a solution to this age old problem where it seems that men are at the heart of so many violent crimes?
I'm not hearing Dean.
Hi, Dean. Hi. Yeah, this is
yes.
yeah, we're live. We're
Hi,
live.
welcome,
Now you know
everyone.
we're live.
Yes. I'm Dean Bisundial, and our news headlines show daily that many of our men are angry and out of control. But where does that anger come from, and how can we help them cope? How can we bring them hope and give men new tools so that they can become better sons, brothers, and fathers?
I'm Vonette Bigford. We see so many of our boys and young men growing up in violent and sometimes loveless homes. Many are abandoned and left to fend for themselves, and others are caught up in a cycle of poverty that they can't seem to find themselves coming out of. In the end, our society is left with many violent, angry young men with little hope and little sense of direction.
Yeah, and what we've realized is that today's man also doesn't know where he fits in a relationship with a woman, because things have changed. Men are no longer the head of the household. They're no longer the main breadwinner in many of the households. And so the dynamic in male-female relationships have changed drastically over the years. Women no longer dependent on a man for any aspect of her life, her professional or her personal growth. She's no longer in need of permission for her education, her career, or what to do with her body or her mind.
And that's so very true, Cecilia. This dynamic has caught many men off guard. And men grow up seeing their mothers and grandmothers very happy in their traditional roles and finding women today who do not want that for themselves. Women want to choose if a relationship is working or not working for them and move on, so they're not trapped in years of being in an unhappy and oppressive situation. And for men to know how to recognize that and let go and move on themselves. Not force their will onto a woman that does not want to live as part of someone else's dream, but live and build their own dream life for themselves.
So that's why we're here today. We're here today to find out, is it always the man's fault, or why is it always the man to blame? Are they really the source of the problem? Is there some sort of roadmap out of this situation so that our men can grow up and live to have healthy and empowering relationships? That's what we're here to find out.
Yeah, and to help us answer these questions, because Vonette, Dean, and I don't know all the answers
We
at
don't.
all.
We
To help
don't.
us navigate towards some solutions. Today we have psychologist Swayne-Leo Hosein-Cadogan,
Hey, Leo
who is with
again.
us, yes, and psychiatric nurse Anthony von Ganness. Let's start the conversation.
Yeah.
So welcome, hi, welcome, gentlemen. We're truly grateful that you've taken the time to chat with us today. Leo, welcome back again. First up, let's get to know you better. Can you give us a brief background of what you do?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me again. The name is a bit long, so I'll spare repeating it again. I am by profession a psychologist with the Northwest Regional Health Authority. Specifically, I am stationed at St. Anne's Hospital, and my duties are that of a forensic psychologist. I deal with those individuals who have been sent to the hospital for mental health assessments because they have matters before the criminal justice system.
And so, yes, come, Anthony. Anthony, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
Well, I am Anthony von Ganness, as you would have heard our distinguished host addressed. I am a registered mental health nurse, psychiatric nurse. I come with experience from working under the Northwest Regional Health Authority as a psychiatric nurse in multiple different areas within psychiatry, from forensic psychiatry to working with children, working with the elderly, and a lot of other small marginal groups that face mental health issues from day to day. I currently, as a psychiatric nurse, but I currently work under the Ministry of Health as the mental health information officer for our National Mental Health Unit. But today I'm in the capacity, I lend in my expertise as a psychiatric nurse to this very interesting and most relevant topic that we're about to explore. I trust that we will all do our justice.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
thank
sure you will. But to both you and Leo, you are seeing our men mentally at their worst. So if you could tell us a bit about some of the struggles that our men are faced with, or some of the problems that they're trying to overcome, if you could just tell us something about that.
Very much so. From the forensic standpoint, we are seeing individuals sometimes at their lowest, at their worst, when they have enacted violence, sometimes against others, sometimes even against themselves. One of the most prominent things right off the bat, being a mental health hospital, mental health is at the forefront. So you're seeing a lot of men who are experiencing severe mental health issues. Much of that early on comes from severe substance abuse. But we've also been seeing that severe trauma, especially early on in life through childhood, teen, and early adult years, have been having a detrimental impact on long-term mental health. That has been a contributing factor as well. That's just from the mental health standpoint. We haven't even touched on the socialization that we go through as men and as a people. That plays an equally important role. So it's not always that they have poor mental health, but just the way they've been socialized, the environment that they've grown up in, the individuals that they've chosen as role models, the values that they hold near and there, all of this has added to it as well.
That's very interesting, because we had spoken some time about the trauma that women see. Last week we spoke about that, and that they tend to go into that same traumatic relationship. So you're saying that a lot of men who commit violence have that trauma as well, come from a violent home as well.
A high majority, yes.
That's interesting.
Sometimes not just as victims of violence themselves, but just from witnessing it, you can grow to incorporate this attitude that violence is the best way forward. It is the answer to all questions. This is how you get what you want. This is how you establish yourself as a man.
As a man,
But you know what I've also found very interesting though, it's that sort of cycle, yes, but you also see some children who grew up in an abusive or violent home take the opposite approach because they don't want to be, I don't want to be like my father. I don't want to be abusing my children or my wife, you know? So there's that other side of, I think.
When I look at the question that is being posed here for today's program, and then taking it in its context, I want to say that a lot has changed. Modern society has brought on the challenge from what has been traditionally known for perhaps decades or centuries as the role of men in our society. Where do men fit in, and how are they seen as part of society, and on the other end, how they see themselves. And what we are witnessing now that is giving rise to a lot of the problems that we are having, I will term it, if I were to just put it under one broad umbrella, as a loss of control. And this is a very significant element, that, you know, the sense of feeling that I no longer has the control over things that as a man, over my masculinity, I no longer has the control for myself, which in turn reflects back on how I see myself, my self-concept, you know, how my self-esteem as a man. And all these goes right back into the sphere of elements of the mental health of not just a man, but of any person, when they start to view things like this. And that loss of control, you know, we have seen that in the statistics. We have seen that in a lot of different areas. And here we are discussing, how do we really try to address this? And, you know, the question is being asked, you know, why do we always blame the man? And when we take it in the context of losing control and so much that has changed, the question that can also be that begs to be asked here is who has the right to cast that blame? Who can someone tell me? Is there anyone that is qualified enough to cast the blame, or should we be positioning ourselves to want to point fingers at anyone, and which directions the fingers should be pointed? Because despite statistics, it has shown us that men are more likely to be homeless. Men are more likely to suffer from substance abuse and substance abuse problems and disorders. Men are more likely to commit suicide. And I'll just throw a little stat saying that for 2018, 19, and 2020 and 20 in Trinidad and Tobago, when we look at the amount in terms of the numbers of suicides that we would have had in each of these respective years, the average is approximately, a rough estimate is 80% are men. So men are more likely, even in our society of Trinidad and Tobago, to commit suicide. We see school dropouts, which is something that is also very significantly high, and in Trinidad as well. Our stats will show us that from 2014 to 2019, we had 2,607 males that drop out of secondary school alone. And that is compounded by 300 plus from the primary school level as well. So we have some real issues that men are challenged with and men are faced with. In our very same society, men are more likely on average to be imprisoned. And the justice system in turn also some research has shown that men are imposed with longer sentences for similar crimes as women. And Leo might probably be able to endorse this from working in that setting in terms of the forensic setting when men commit offenses, and we look and examine them mentally. So here we have men being faced with all these challenges in contemporary society, and the question is being asked why it is always the men to blame. But are we really looking at the real issues that men are facing and how we can address them rather than blaming?
Wow,
I love that.
Very
Love that.
profound.
me too.
Very profound.
That is fantastic because
Yes.
as you said it there, I realized that all of the people, persons I know in my life that have committed suicide have been men. Have been men. Wow. Oh. But let's look at now. We're talking about the male-female relationship. It has changed. We're talking about how it has changed, and we see men struggling to let go when relationships don't work. Why do you feel that is? What's happening to our men out there that that they can't let go and move on?
And before Leo goes, I will just put that right back to that point that I made about loss of control.
Control.
Loss of control. Leo, over
Loss
to
of
you.
control. Leo, over to you.
As always, my esteemed colleague sets the good groundwork. And I must thank him for bringing in that loss of control, because that is one of the strongest factors in responding to this question in particular. The issue with letting go is just that sense of control. And we bring it back to the identity as well. Who we are as an individual, in a large part, is formed by the individuals that we choose to keep as friends, those that we have around us. And so for many people, their relationships help define who they are. And as a man, there's sometimes this sense of failure when your relationship can't work out. Did you do everything that was necessary? And I mean, if we think about our friends, when they tell us, well, I broke up with so and so, immediately we automatically think the man is at fault. What has he done wrong? What hasn't he done? It's either that he's failed in providing in some way, he's failed to do something in some way, or he's done it incorrectly. And it is very easy to point fingers at the man being at fault.
Yeah.
And so that notion of, no, I will be the one to end this, not you. And that in turn inspires anger. You don't walk out on me, I walk out on you. And we have the opposite end of the spectrum, where you have the individuals who think they can try and they will do everything in their power to maintain a relationship. And when it doesn't work, you have a breakdown. And it becomes, we are, as a species, very possessive. We are extremely possessive. That if I can't have you, no one must have notion. And that runs equally as deep in men and women. But as Mr. Von Ganness has pointed out, there is a much higher ratio of violence and crimes committed. If we're looking at the statistics, men are more likely to engage in violence, and not just towards others, towards themselves as well.
Wow. But Lee, I want to ask, what are some situations that lead our men and boys to become so vicious, though?
Well, I guess a lot of what they would have mentioned
Anthony.
before too. Yeah, a lot of what.
How we are socialized is a large contributing factor. In as much as things have been changing, there are some things that remain very much the same. And this notion of masculinity, what masculinity is, has been very hard to adapt.
Yeah.
So the notion of boys don't cry, man up,
There's a new term now called toxic masculinity. I hear that term being thrown around a lot now.
That's a whole other topic.
That's a book in and of itself.
All right.
One we hope to cover later on, if you allow. But yes, and let me also add, as much as we have toxic masculinity, we also have toxic femininity that feeds into that. And so you can hear, even among the females of our population, as much as the woman is independent, I don't need a man, I can take care of myself. And yet, if he fails to do something in a particular way, what kind of man is you? Right? And as much as we must be honest, masculinity is as much a concept of strength as it is virility. Sexuality is closely tied into our notion of masculinity.
Right.
If you fall short there, you know,
Right.
there's no saving grace. If you look at it, there's a lot of stuff on the market now aimed at the virility of men. I was coming on the highway today and I saw a panel van with the Village Ram product painted on the side, and I thought, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Big, bold, bright colors. You can't miss it. It jumps out at you. And again, it comes back to this notion of, you know, you must go out there, you must sow your oats, you must procreate, because that is what man must do. And we still have the socialization of our men towards a lot of these old school notions.
Dean, can we come? Oh, go ahead, Anthony. I was just going to check in with some of our online people after. When you're finished.
Yeah, just one statement. I personally have seen in clinical practice where one of the most vital means of reaching men who we may interact with within the mental institution, they are now up for an assessment because they have committed an offense, is being able to reach them at that point of their need, where you give them back the feeling of some sort of a control, and you help them to see themselves as someone now who is not just a total failure, but someone who, you know, there's hope for, and someone that you know is not, that society may have written you off, but you know what, you can't write off yourself, because there is help. And I have seen in the clinical area, you know, where where we have grounded men who would have shown up pretty broken, and you know, because you would have just taken that time to hear them out, you take that time to really give them the opportunity, you know, to share their innermost fears and their emotions, and then you really get to recognize that, you know what, it's not a matter of blame, but it's a matter of how can I assist you, how can I help you to be that fit, that society, that will function within society. And I want to refrain from saying that society will accept, but you know, how can you be that fit, that you know, that society really views as a healthy man, and a man that will fulfill the roles that are expected of him. Because I also want to bring in the question of, whilst we talk about why do we blame the men, and you know, and as the term would have been thrown in here about toxic masculinity, I want to ask the question: what are our expectations of our men?
Exactly.
So I want to leave that there for now.
Very much so.
Dean, can we check in with the online comments?
Sure. And guys, thank you for joining us online. Let's see. So Deborah Powell says, because some fathers have so many children at times with different mom, as well as some women don't really know how to deal with fatherly love.
Okay.
Deborah Richardson, he says, because half the time father don't take their role and some of us don't care. Camus Romano. Romano. We are often socialized to believe that our masculinity is directly measured by sexual and physical or brute force expression. That's so true. Yeah. Ricia Borelli says, that's like having an internal locus of control versus external locus of control. With the latter, external validation is essential.
A sense of self.
Yeah, to a sense of self, and without such, one may feel unworthy.
Yeah.
Right. Focusing on his control. Yeah.
Lucretia saying it's a worldwide phenomenon that more men are considered to have died by suicide. It is often related to the fact that men are less socialized to talk about their emotional problems. For example, in every 10 women who attempt suicide, 1 will die. But for men, if 100 attempt, 95 die.
Yeah, their methods are more lethal.
They make sure they get the job done.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, let's move on a little bit here, because we have standing by Prem Badri. Now, Prem was recently released from prison, serving a 16-year sentence for murder. Welcome, Prem, and thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us briefly a little bit about your story?
Good night, everybody.
Hi.
Good night.
My name is Prem Badri. I was incarcerated at 15 years old for a capital offense murder. I received, after 10 years, 8 months on remand, I pleaded guilty just to get the system over with, because if I didn't plead guilty, up to today, I would have still been on remand. I was given a 30-year sentence, which broke down after time served and all the formalities to 8 years, 8 months. So in all, I served 16 years and 5 months in prison. This month will make it seven months since I'm released. Whilst incarcerated, the first week, I told myself I never wanted to be behind my school friends. I didn't want it to be another percentage of recidivism. I never wanted to have my school friends laugh at me and say, well, hey, look, I don't have a subject. So I started what I started to try to push me. So currently today, I have 10 CXC passes whilst incarcerated, 6 A-levels. I won a scholarship to Cipriani College to do human resource management, which I'm currently pursuing. I did radio broadcasting. I am certified in it. I'm also certified graphic designer. On TikTok, I am actually promoting it. So as I came out, I also taught computers in prison as an inmate. So on release, after a couple months, I started a TikTok series to tell my story to help youths and help anybody who willing just to take the chance to share the story, because sometimes we are so much balled up inside of us. That is what causes us to retaliate or rebel, and it hurts.
Yeah.
If we could get somebody to listen to us, no matter if it's a little joy and we don't have it to share with anybody, that is the only way we can actually feel like we belong somewhere.
Yeah.
Krim, why do you think we have so many angry young men in our society?
One, because we have nobody to listen to us like how we want them to listen to us.
Yeah.
Because at times if the youths are run to the adults want to always put in their way, like if they know everything and they decide, yes, there was children, but there's a different time. Learn to just give the youths our ears. Why? Ask pros and cons, ask why, ask this question, let them talk, let them express themselves. Don't cage them. The more you cage someone, like example, if you put a dog in a cage for a very long time, it will bite you. So you need not to cage them. You need to actually give them a little freedom. And this is why if it keep on caging them, they will run to other external role models. And these external will actually show them the belongingness. That is why I actually gravitate towards doing bad crime. That is why, example, every music video, actually 99% of the music videos, secular music videos, have somebody smoking with money and girls, portraying ladies like items and two-piece, like that is all their words. And when these youths seeing these things, and actually I will always say our government and our citizens have a big play in it. Because when K-Line and Rebel died, our Prime Minister come out and say a promising young man died. When these artists, all they promoted was kill somebody every day. My team had the biggest guns. What's this? So our government is supporting this. And this is causing the youth to further fall lower. It is very embarrassing, because it's very embarrassing to see it. When we should just take our stand to help the youths and upbring, because they are our future generations.
You are so right.
So you have been out. How has that been for you? Or how has your reintegration into society? How is it going for you?
Well, at the beginning, the first morning I woke, nobody was up, so I went to open the door. This is the first time I know you had to turn a key 2 times to open a door. I catch my tail to open the door. I didn't even open it. When my brother come home, he said the door was open all the time. So it was, at the beginning, it was a little funny, getting a little sleepy flashbacks. Naturally, so I had to walk with the toiletries, so every time I go to the toilet, I'd say, wait, I miss my toiletries. Oh, shucks, look at right here. So it was a little slow to actually get accustomed to society. Then afterwards, I started owing money. I was job hunting for 5 months straight. Nothing. Until that day, I just walked by a hardware and I had no skills, and he just liked me all of a sudden and gave me a chance. After that, I moved to another work, and currently I'm working now. But it is hard knowing that I want some stuff. I never have. I don't have a home. I don't have a car. I don't have. It's things now coming in. So I'm trying my best to save, to get money, and it's hard when you're trying to treat yourself. Because I've never tasted TGI Fridays, I've never tasted a lot of things, and I'm trying to actually feel like I'm somebody, because sometimes it feels like I'm being robbed that I never get to taste these things. So actually what made my TikTok boom was because the first time I tasted rituals, and it was my first birthday out here.
Wow.
So first Christmas coming up, it will be my first ham in so long. And
That's funny. Sweet. Yeah. Well, I think you're doing wonderfully. And there's something you said there that I just pointed out today. Somebody was commenting about these young people that were doing lap dancing in school. And I was saying, but what is their role model? What are they seeing? All the music videos they're seeing.
yes,
That is what they're seeing. That's what they're being told will make you famous and get you out there. You know, that's the same point you were making. So, Preem, if yeah, okay, I thought I was saying a question. There are so many young men out there making wrong choices, right? If you could teach our frustrated young men who do not see any hope one lesson, what would it be?
I will say that you are your best friend and your greatest enemy. The way you treat yourself is the way you'll see the things. Be your best friend and keep pushing yourself, because don't feel you're there alone. Every morning I wake up, sometimes I say I don't have nothing I feel to give up. But just to know that tomorrow could be greater, and to know you have a future, because you write the lines of your future. Not your parents, not your friends. You alone. So all I'm saying is believe in yourself and start to do things on your own. If you get positive help, help it. Proverbs say, don't be fool. Bad company corrupts good habits. Choose your friends wisely.
Wow.
If you want to hear my story more and hear my struggles and my victories more, you could also log on to my TikTok, Prefire 11, and you will see that every day I will post a new video to let people know that this life's so sweet. We need to enjoy it. No grudges. Love yourself. If you love yourself, you will see yourself walking on the stars.
That was something I wanted to ask you about, forgiving yourself. If you've forgiven yourself and moved on. And it seems that you have.
But the greatest forgiveness, I try to tell people this. It's easy to forgive people. It's easy to forgive everything, but you see yourself. And I want to draw kind of Bible references for this. Not to really pull on religion, but the story with Judas who betrayed Jesus. He repented, he said. The Bible said he repented, but the problem is how he could repent and still kill himself. He didn't have self-forgiveness. That's what actually condemned himself and make him do that.
Yeah.
Forgiving yourself is the greatest thing. Because that will without forgiving yourself, you'll suffer a lot of depression. That will come to anxiety. That will come to suicidal thoughts. Forgiving yourself is one of the most important things, and I always recommend this too. They have this concept that talking to yourself and replying to yourself is madman thing. The greatest inventors in the world talk to themselves and reply to themselves. So they're like Einstein might just, or whoever, the person who created the light bulb might just say, "Wait, boy, I failed doing this. How I could do this now? Wait. So should I try so? Let me try so. He talk and he reply. Sometimes that is the only way, and plenty times I go through pain and I talk to myself, pinpoint the problem, and then I say, here what? I forgive myself. Let me move on from this, because then I'll be always living regrets and I'll always be a recurring decimal. when are supposed to be going and they are sawing eagle.
Wow. I don't know if Anthony or Leo, yeah, have any questions
So,
for Prem?
yeah, of course, I have one, and I just want to say to Prim, keep up what you are doing, and the statement as I listen to you share your story. What I can say is that the things people take for granted, But what I really want to ask you, Prim, I have usually heard from the many interactions I would have had with persons who would have been incarcerated for offenses through my field, of course. The term that so for example, there's a system and then there's you. And then there's the culture or the term that they use that the system is fighting me and I am fighting back. I want to put the question to you in that while you were incarcerated, were you faced with that that having to challenge that statement or the challenge that issue that there's a system and there's you, and now you are going to fight the system? Because to me, 9 out of 10 persons I interact with usually will use that system, that phrase, the system and me, and I'm fighting the system. And I want to ask you, how did that apply to you during your incarceration, and when did you recognize that you don't need to fight the system but make the system work for you, and hence the reason why you were able to accomplish all those things that you would have listed for us earlier on in terms of your accomplishments while in prison?
Well, so a lot of people they say this. Why you're talking to officers, why you're talking to the magistrates, they are the one player here. When you get to understand that is your choice, and I don't believe in mistakes, I believe in wrong choices. And when you get to understand that is your wrong choice having that situation, and your wrong choice, and actually, I wrote a quote stating that your past self determines your current self, and your current self determines your future self. So when you get to understand that, yes, your past self reach you in this position, but what you do now will figure out will actually determine what will happen in the future. And you get to understand that every single individual have a role. Prison officers have their role. Yes, some abuse it. Some do watch us like dogs. I actually witnessed that. When I entered prison, one made us drink hot porridge for spite. One say like, oh, he's a dog. And I actually witnessed other prison officers who talk to you and treat you like human being. That would sit down and talk to you in a way. And when you understand that some of these is placed in a position for you to learn something, and some is there to teach you something. So, in a terms that I did a TikTok video stating that if someone wants to leave from your life, don't ever force them to stay, because at that point in time, they was there to teach you something. So I get to understand the rules of everyone, what I needed to learn from everyone, and to understand that some people say think outside the box, and that life, you shouldn't work, you shouldn't this, you shouldn't that. There's an order to everything. There is an order to everything. Without order, there will be chaos. So there's a system. Yes, it has some faults in the system, but you have to understand that without the process of the system and utilizing it, you will just be a top spinning in mud. When it's supposed to actually be you're supposed to be climbing a mountain and helping the others who falling down, throw a rope for them and help them. Because if man was meant to be there by themselves, each person would have been an island or world by themselves. We born in a family with multiple siblings, in a community. So we need to help, and as much as I try to help and to figure out that never keep your mind in the prison. That will actually put you deeper inside a prison. Keep your mind focused for your family, for your future, what you want and what you don't want to happen. The system, if you take on this, like, okay, there's a system, and the system meant to fight you, and the system meant to, if you take on that, that means you're being, that means something will always change you to be walking backwards. And to me, that's never helped me down.
Wow. Those are good words of advice for everyone. Not to live in the prison. The prison of your mind, the prison, the prisons we all create for ourselves, Those are words of advice for everyone.
Definitely.
So, yes, Prim. Sorry, Dean, go
So
ahead.
let's read through some of our online comments that we have here. Again, Ricia Borelli says Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs states that a sense of belonging is one of the essential factors to help us achieve our fullest potential. G. Bonraj says excellent program. Lucretia Gabriel, for young men who get into trouble, it can be simple as having the wrong friends. They end up on remand for murder because they were out of school and liming with their friends and family. As the old saying goes, friends carry you, but they don't bring you back. And Pip Phillips says, I'll be volunteering soon. Stay blessed, please.
Oh, very good. Excellent. So, any more questions? Prem, this conversation has been mind blowing for me. I mean, thank you so much for joining us today
Thank you,
and
Prem.
being willing to share your story with us. You're an inspiration, and I believe you're going to go very far. I'm going to follow you on TikTok for sure.
Definitely.
But do you have anything you'd like to say before you go? Oh no, he's frozen. Oh no, there you go. We're hearing you now. Yeah.
The person who said friends is carry and don't lead you back, that's only half of the truth. The next half is your choice to follow them.
Go follow them.
Yeah. So before I go, what I would like to do is also promote my TikTok, because I really want them to listen, because through my TikTok, families have reached out to me. I've went and counseled family. I've talked to youths that actually know they're hugging up their mom and kissing them. Tears have flown because they just needed somewhere to vent to. And again, it's Prefire 11, Prefire 11. And I'm actually now pushing my forum to YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, because I actually want to help as much as youth I can, because we are always meant to scratch each other's back, in other words.
It's really
Unity,
wonderful.
respectfully, ladies. And I also did the same thing I was saying, why men. I actually did a topic on my TikTok, why men abuse women. I did a big topic on that on my TikTok. And I have to do one at some of the women as well, but it's respect, the biggest thing, and love next stage. Love everybody like you love yourself. Treat them like you want to treat yourself. And never give up. Never give up.
Never give up.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let's head to our next segment, Sal. Let's go to our
Yes.
next segment is dealing with it.
So, gentlemen, how do we deal with this situation? How do we give men the tools to make better decisions? Yes, Anthony.
Mic muted.
Oh.
We identify that we have a problem and we have an issue that is worth the attention of our society, our national community. And how do we deal with it? I want to just put us into three domains. We can deal with it through our institutions, by building strong institutions that really place issues like these as their mantle, because they have the structure and the resources in place to really address issues like these. We have to look at our communities and how do we build better, stronger, healthy communities for our men to thrive in, for our men to express themselves in a healthy way. And of course, taking it down to the more individual and family level, support systems. How do we build support systems for our men that are positive and can build up our men? And so how do we deal with it? We can deal with this issue of not blaming, but strengthening our men through our institutions, our communities, and our support systems, that and how much attention and effort we put into strengthening these.
Lord.
Wow.
Very, very much so. Very much so. In the olden times, the golden days, the village raised the children.
True.
We have moved away from that. No longer is it where, I mean, while I was growing up, we still had a time where the neighbor could discipline you if they saw you doing wrong. As a child, I would get angry at that. As an adult now, I understand that has kept me on the straight and narrow. And as Mr. Von Ganness can attest, as an elder in his community, he has maintained the notion of the village raising the children. I have seen firsthand his interactions with young men and women. And
I think for me, as the skill here, it's a skill, and it's not just for men; it's for men as well as women, and me included. Conflict resolution, how to know when to walk away, how to know when you're getting to the point where you're crossing, to just say, well, okay, I need to just step back from this argument. How conflict resolution for me is such an important thing, and for us to put out there to kind of equip people to deal with problems. What do you think about that, Leo?
Conflict resolution is a skill set that everyone has, but we don't all utilize. And the reason for that is, if we think of the last argument we had with someone, was it necessary? Did it need to become an argument?
No.
Chances are no. But at the time, something was said or something was done, and we didn't react. We didn't listen. We didn't think. We reacted. We felt like we had been done a slight and we needed to react to that. And that is what a lot of us are still doing today. In extreme cases, it results in violence against one another and the commission of crimes. But this skill set of stopping, you saw it on Sesame Street. When you get angry, count to 10, take a breath, walk away. That is a skill that we need to practice in order for it to become second nature.
Yes.
Right.
So we need to teach these things in school.
Yeah. And we've heard some men complain that if things must be equal between a man and a woman, and of course this is controversial. How come in an argument with men, a man with another man, they can shout, they could push, they could get violent with one another, and it's acceptable because it's a display of that machismo. But with a disagreement with a woman, between a man and a man cannot shout, he can't push, he can't even defend himself because you have that social stigma that's now being called violence against women.
Or isn't that maybe it shouldn't have been that way at all? You should be behaving that way with anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you know what? Sorry.
Yeah, I personally towards that statement that was just made, think that that has a lot to do with a societal construct.
Yeah.
And how we would have constructed how men should treat women, whether it would have been from back then or in our modern society today. And hence the reason why we look at the issue like that. But what we should be focusing on is teaching and building societies that care, and a society that displays empathy towards one another on an equal platform, rather than societies that blame each other and point fingers at each other based on constructs that we would have established by putting more attention to particular areas. I must say that I commend over the years and the past few decades the efforts that has been put into empowering women and making women be seen as valuable to society, and I admire that and I commend that, and but right now the call is for us to reciprocate that type of effort for our men, because our men need us. Our men really need us, and
really
I say
need us,
which means all of us, men and women. And also simply calling for men to just get up and men to come forward and men to pull themselves together, that's not enough.
Yeah.
We need, as a society, to pull ourselves together and build our men together.
Great point. And that leads us. That will lead us to our next segment, finding help.
So either Leo or Ganness. I can't remember your first name.
Anthony.
If a young man or a boy doing some self-reflection, or they think that they need help, or they think that they're getting to a point where they need to address some of their issues, what are some of the places, or where are some of the places they could go to find help for these situations?
Well, first of all, there is what level and type of help they may be needing will depend on where they look, and will determine where they look as well. So whether they require formal help, which may mean professional, talking to a professional, getting into an institution, or they may need informal help, which is just a peer group support, talking to a partner, co-worker, etc. And that will determine where they go to get help first and foremost. And right here in Trinidad and Tobago, we do have a lot of programs that are geared towards our young persons. We have seen over the years our government invest in a lot of youth programs through our, for example, CCC, MyLat, MyPath, and a lot of these are the initiatives that seek to empower young people, empower young men. And young men who may find themselves wanting to do better can actually go to some of these places. On the other side, in terms of people actually wanting to find a young man to a place where he could where he may be having challenges that he himself have no control over, but he need help. In the mental health sphere, we have the Child Guidance Clinic, which focuses on the behavior of young persons and how I'm saying the Child Guidance Clinic, and they themselves has been making an effort to do such a great job. But the numbers for them seems to be very high as well, because that's hence the reason why we're having such a conversation here today. And there are a lot of other structured places and programs that young men can go within their communities. There may be community groups. There are a number of police youth clubs throughout Trinidad and Tobago young men can become part of. As someone who has been involved in the Boy Scouts for many years, there are a lot of Boy Scouts groups in our communities, and Boy Scouting is it's still alive, and it's there, and they carry a program. They carry a program that can have positive impacts, and has been a program that has been proved and tried to create better young people. So I can personally endorse that. We also have a lot of other sometimes church groups and other miscellaneous youth groups, sporting groups within communities. All these are places that, whilst we may just see them as a sporting group, some random or spontaneous group in a society, they are places that young men can find themselves that carry a positive objective in terms of building themselves. And of course, on the informal side, the friends that they keep, the peers who they look up to, school friends, etc., who the persons they can call, those in our time who they can chat with on social media. And there are a lot of places where help can be found. And whilst I speak to that as well, we hear of a lot. We have to keep our ears open, because we hear of a lot of people talking about the youths can do better. But I want to also encourage not just state but non-state corporate sector as well, that in order for our youths to do better, we must invest in our young people, and we must be willing to engage them. There's a construct that a successful young person, and in this context, a successful young man may be someone who would have went through the schooling system, get an education, have a good job, being paid something that could help him live a comfortable life. He probably build a house, have a wife, a family, build a wall around that house, has 2 dogs in his yard, and then that's success. And we have a lot of people who carry that as their success, and they refuse to look at the young man who walk the street despondent outside those walls that they would have built for themselves. And this is me here now just advocating for us all, that when we have constructed our own versions of our success, that we look outside those walls, because there is someone else who may need our help. And this is how we're going to bring the help down to an individual level where each one helps one and we reach more, because we can't depend solely on government programs and on some of our social institutions to reach all. You know, it takes everybody. And in order for us to not to leave anyone behind, all of us have to recognize that we have a significant role to play. I personally in the community has always faced the challenge where because of probably how I speak and I allow young people, as I would have heard Prim say, I listen to young people. So young people tend to come to me and speak to me. And sometimes I have often found myself asking young men, you know, why do you think it's okay that you could come and tell me that? Haven't you recognized the age difference? And the response will usually be that, you know, Mr. Tony, you tend to listen to us and you don't judge us. And you won't scold us, but you will try to understand us. And this is where engaging our young people comes in. And I have seen, and I actually take it personal, that when a young man chooses to come to have a conversation with me, and I don't make the time for him, later down when I see him on the block, I should have nothing to say because I did not do my part. And this is how serious we should be taking youth engagement and helping everyone, helping our young men to build a better society.
Anthony, I think you're saying it all. You are saying it all and leading us. No, that's great. That's fantastic because you're
I'm
covering.
really passionate about these things.
I agree totally with everything you are saying, and that leads us to our final segment, hope. Where's the hope for our young men? Well, I dare say that the hope is right here. Anthony and Leo and Prem, the hope is right here, Anthony. I'm so glad that you're out there working with these young people. Anything you'd like to say about hope?
And in terms of hope, I think our greatest hope right now lies in the fact that this issue, in terms of our young men and our men needing us to get active and to get up and do something, because it has gained societal attention, that we recognize that we need to do something about it. I think that's the spark that we needed. And we ought to not let that spark die. We ought to continue to ignite that flame by all our efforts, that we can keep it burning until we realize the society with men that we all hope for.
Wow.
Leo, any specific thing you have to say about hope, Leo?
I want to basically echo what my esteemed colleague here has already said. We are our greatest hope. If we want a change, we have to enact that change. We have to be the ones going out there, being willing to listen, being willing to teach, impart the knowledge. We have our own experiences to build on. And in imparting our skill set, our knowledge, listening and empowering the next generation, we will enable them to now take care of the generation coming after.
Yes.
Putting it at the forefront like this now is good, but maintaining the momentum that we're starting will be better.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Leo and Anthony, I'm so thankful for you all. And Prem, what a wonderful program, guys.
Yeah.
It's tears. I'm feeling to cry 1 minute. It is just such a wonderful
roller coaster of emotions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for contributing to a really wonderfully enlightening program. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks very
Definitely.
much.
And I would like to thank those of you who joined us online and took part in today's show. Join us next week, same time and same place.
Yes, and as we've learned today, it's not about blame anymore. It's not about blame. It's about listening, empathy, and finding the solutions. All right. So this Saturday is the 13th of November, is World Kindness Day, everyone. So yes, as we always say at OMG,
let's be kind to one another.
To each other, TNT. Be kind. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. See you all soon. Take care, Anthony and
You all are
Leo.
most
Leo.
welcome. And if I may just mention, November the
course.
19th is also International Men's Day.
All right.
Okay.
Let us put
November
that
the
in our
19th.
agendas.
Okay.
I will.
I'll cook.